Hello, everyone, and welcome to Masters of Digital Transformation, a podcast from AIM-10X dedicated to uncovering the stories behind the world's leading change agents and the most valuable learnings from our community of global innovators. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and as always, we're here to provide you with actionable insights from today's greatest thought leaders to guide and accelerate your journeys. AIM-10X is a knowledge and networking hub for leaders passionate about digitally transforming enterprises for better decision-making and a better planet. You can learn more by heading to aim10x.09solutions.com. In today's episode, we'll be joined by Gustavo Ghory, former Kimberly-Clark Chief Supply Chain Officer and Global Vice President of Manufacturing at Procter & Gamble. We'll start by talking about the story behind Gustavo's career journey to CSCO of Kimberly-Clark. We'll also cover why the pace of decision-making should align with the organization's long-term digital transformation goals, and then we'll close out the conversation by hearing about Gustavo's perspective on leadership's role in managing the pace of decision-making to keep the organization's heart and rhythm pumping. Now, it often goes without saying that pacing the growth of digital transformation at an enterprise level is an immensely difficult process. There's never a hard and fast rule surrounding just how quickly elements of digital transformation should be delivered. In fact, by 2026, Statista estimates that spending on digital transformation will reach $3.4 trillion. And yet, according to a separate recent study by McKinsey, around 70% of these digital transformation initiatives will fail. And while each may fail for its own reason, it could be a resistance to change, a lack of clear vision and strategy, or even insufficient executive buy-in, there tends to be commonalities across those that succeed. I want you to stop and ask yourself, is your digital transformation progressing at the right pace? At the heart of these questions are the leaders responsible for the rhythm of progress and decision making, and I'm so excited to hear about how today's guest has navigated these areas of leadership. Without further ado, let's introduce today's very special guest, Gustavo Ghory. Gustavo served as Chief Supply Chain Officer at Kimberly-Clark, and he joined the organization after more than 35 years of deep experience in the consumer goods industry, including several key leadership roles at the Procter & Gamble company. Now, here's a little something else you should know about Gustavo. He excels at creating business-relevant strategies, designing effective organizations, and developing winning teams. He's led global and regional operations across the different business organizations at Procter & Gamble and has also led disciplines of supply chain operations, global planning, and global manufacturing. Gustavo, welcome to Masters of Digital Transformation.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah. Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I feel privileged to even have the opportunity just to pick your brain about how you did it, how you've built so many successful winning teams. And more specifically, what we're focusing on today is the role of leadership, the role leadership plays in setting the pace of a successful digital transformation, but not just digital transformation, the pace of decision making, the heartbeat of an organization's digital transformation. Before we dive too far into, your philosophy on leadership, I want to step back and give the listeners a little bit of more information about your backstory or your origin story as a leader. What attracted you to the world of supply chain?
Yeah, supply chain is being, of course, at this stage of my life. I cannot think about my life without supply chain related things. But the truth of the matter is that I started this career as a manufacturing person, down on the operations on the floor, back in 1981. I was a young engineer, chemical engineering, graduated in Venezuela and joined P&G. Those days for me were the discovery of what a young engineer can do in the production systems. From day one in the P&G system with zero experience, you are called to be a team leader. And that is like a wow title that I didn't deserve at all. But it was challenging just to look at it and go and try to do your best. For most of us, we started to do work with people that were at the age of our parents, maybe. And we were trying to lead them through the production system. But the truth of the matter is that they were our teachers. They were the people that taught us everything we know about manufacturing. I certainly owe to these people my first few assignments, everything I know about production systems. Along the career, I learned more and more in depth the value of that, value of people, and the way you embrace operation systems and supply chain management through people. So to the question, the number one thing that kept me in supply chain and operations was the people. I actually tried to do several other things in my career, and I always went back to where people are. I had this need to learn, need to connect, need to network, need to be part of the group, and try to give to the group everything I could to make it a successful team. I think that was the driver of my supply chain career.
Wow, so you're never done learning. It's so exciting, just to hear stories like yours about people who kind of started in their youth and worked their way all the way up. I mean, I imagine along the way in your very tenured career here, you've probably encountered several challenges, even leading teams. What would you say has been one of your biggest career challenges to date?
When I look backwards, I can tell you quite a few failures moments in the career, and quite a few successful moments as well. And both of them built on you a lot of character. I had several moments of career that I thought, oh my God, this is so tough. I don't know if I can make it happen. And one of them happened when I was already in a mature stage of my career. I was asked by the company to lead a project to define the future of planning for our company in view of the growth expected and the need for driving productivity. I was challenged with the task of defining the new way of planning for Procter& Gamble globally. The project was particularly difficult because you're touching at the core of the operation. So if you look at the production systems and the way we do business in general, planning is core to what we do. Touching planning was touching also the power scope of every individual across the globe and standardize the approach that we use. So it was really, really challenging because the alignment process requires so much of global intensity and technical expertise that I didn't feel like I was the best at. I had to learn a lot to really inspire a change in this area. So we come up with great solutions. The first thing was we convinced ourselves that we had to centralize planning, that we cannot do planning in a dispersed way as we were doing before. It would be more productive, more efficient, and more consistent if we do that centralized. So we started to go into that journey, which was a very tough project because it required actually detangling and tangling back uh, roles and activities, skills at the plan level, at the central level, at the demand planning level, in general, all the planning activities of the operation. And it required to have a platform, a common ground platform of understanding and methodology to do the planning processes. And quite frankly, the external world wasn't as mature in supplying services for planning as it is today. So those days, we didn't have companies like O9, for example, which is dedicated to do good planning in a centralized way for others. So we created our centralized approach. Today, I can see that as one of the biggest building blocks that we had the chance to participate in, and I had a chance to lead for the company. And it's one of the most proud moments, even though it was one of the most difficult challenges that I ever had to tackle.
Centralizing all of your planning operations, that is no small feat, and it requires quite a bit of leadership. You have to get people on board. You have to get leaders on board. You have to get their people on board. Well, I mean, like, what would you say was the role of the leader in setting the pace? Like your leadership style, how did that set the pace for those big transformations?
There are two problems here. One problem is not everybody was aligned to the idea of centralizing planning. The biggest challenge I think I had, which is a technical challenge, but it brings along the fact that people would not trust any other method. So if I am in a particular area with a particular process with my little spreadsheet that I use to plan, I'm not going to trust a central solution from a guy that doesn't know my work, doesn't know my operation, doesn't know my area of expertise, hasn't lived it through, and why would I implement that? So we had a lot of parallel work going on, which is by itself a big problem. But the number one of the two that I mentioned is really the most challenging one. So I said before, if planning is core to the enterprise, so every profit center head, you're moving their cheese by touching their planning stabilities. So you have a corporate resistance to go for such a change. So it required a lot of testing, talking, aligning, studying alternatives, trying to collect concerns from people and bringing discovery insights for people to be aligned to it. It took a lot of personal time to do that type of work. I had a tremendously talented team that was doing the work of designing and organizing and detailing organizations. But there is a lot of work that had to happen at the leadership level to keep aligned and then informed of the progress, leadership, clarity on the mission, and be able to articulate how this will be a better enabler of the business model and how we'll accelerate growth and progress by doing that, and how we enable the company to do more with less or the same resources. Talking that language from the conviction that is come from your heart as much as it come from your mind is when you are able to bridge into a change. Then you cannot be, you need to be consistent with the task until you deliver it through. But it's important is that you keep this alignment going as you move all the time, all the time with the people that have vested interests in the process.
You have to cast a vision, you have to get everyone on board with the vision, and then as you're actually driving the transformation, you have to keep people on board with the vision. That seems like a huge undertaking, especially when you're looking at something as complex as planning. No doubt, an incredible transformation story. I want to hone in on the role that your teams and processes played in that successful digital transformation. I'd say the trio here is teams, processes, and technology. So the people power, the processes to kind of scale, but also the technology to make it happen. How did those three things enable you to react more quickly throughout the transformation process?
This is a great question because it's an orchestration effort, and that sometimes we overlook one or two of those at a time. But the most important one is no doubt in my mind is the people side of it. Because first of all, you need to overcome fear. Fear plays a big role here. And the fear is I will not be able to do my planning activities with the new process, or the new technologies. I'm not savvy, technology savvy enough to adopt. I have a resistance to learn technology or work through a platform. I prefer my way of doing it. I am the best planner, but I do it with my spreadsheet. So the people part of these three components becomes the maker or break it. We can develop methods, we can bring technology. That's a matter of resources. But the people part, making people feel confident that yes, we can. We will learn how to do this, and we will do it with excellence, and stay with them until you get through. And that's a very important part because you will see failure. Some people will be frustrated. You will see people that doesn't want to do it. You will see people that easily adopted and they fly from day one. But you, as a leader, has the obligation to sense the pulse of the organization and adjust the plan to adopt to adoption, so you can really enroll everybody into it. And yes, it's always sometimes some people will not be able to transform and change to it. So your task is also to see, okay, where this person plays better and bring them to the game in that area. But your job is to enable them to get there. And to enable them, you, of course, you provide training, coaching, support, shadowing activities, and things like that will open their eyes to and the desire to go for it.
Getting the buy-in. Humans don't like change necessarily. Where if we're especially if it's a group or an individual who are very comfortable, you have to figure out, hey, we have a better way of doing things or a different way of doing things that's going to help us achieve the desired result here. So that's obviously going to require quite a bit of vision casting and something we were talking about just a moment ago. I mean, how have you personally, throughout your career, perhaps even in your time at Procter and Gamble, how have you approached sharing your vision for new transformation initiatives with your teams?
I would say the secret sauce is understanding the business need and then being able to translate that business need into the capabilities that you're bringing along or the transformational plan. If you don't understand the business need and the business model, okay, everybody can figure out why we need more productivity, why do we need more database. People actually even do good lip service to that. The idea of understanding your business requirement and the priorities is what helps you translate the vision that you have on the subject matter, let's say planning, into capabilities that are required to deliver the planning function for that business situation. The idea of the new capability translated into capability blocks that then you can communicate to your people. You describe that better. Of course, you bring it down to how that connects with the capability of planning or the capabilities of manufacturing or the capabilities of synchronization or whatever you choose to. Once this connection is established, people start to be more intuitive. Now, to get here, we need all these building blocks. And those building blocks are normally for people that are managing people, like us in operations, is should be the language of capabilities that they understand. I know I am developing this capability for this building block that is essential for us to get here so we deliver the business plan. That is a very important aspect of the communication of the plan. Not only the vision, but also the how to get there. Now, in the case I discovered before, we didn't know how to get there. Okay, we did not know, but we had the vision, and we started to discover the how to. As we discovered it, we were in constant communication with the organization. Communication plays an amazing role, and it has to be that the leader understands enough about the issues so you can talk intelligently, and you can answer questions that will come from your people doing the work, from the future planners, from the current planners, and from those that will stay being planners, and for those that are stakeholders of the current people. How do we do that? It's communication. You need to be there, you need to understand it, you need to adjust your plan based on dynamics of the business and dynamics of people needs, so you can really be credible in what you're doing and get the buy-in of the entire organization to make it happen. You will not be able to do a major transformation without this buy-in being in place.
It's a lot of buy-in too, because like you say, there's so many stakeholders, peers, it's your reports, it's their reports, it's your partners if you're working with outside vendors to help you get there. It sounds like quite the undertaking. You've talked a lot about the role of communication and getting buy-in. I think, again, two really essential elements to any digital transformation or change management initiative. As a leader, though, you are also setting the tone of the culture. And, one of the things about communication and culture is that it's important to be transparent in order to foster that trust. And, one thing you said that really stuck with me was, hey, we were doing things no one had done before. So how do you go about, as a leader, fostering trust and transparency, even when you're like, hey, we've never done this before, here's what we are confident we're going to reach, but no one's ever done it before? How do you continue to push that trust that you will achieve your goals?
In my particular case, I think being tremendously honest about your own fears and the possibilities that something might go wrong in a proactive way. And what would you do if that happens? That is a very, very important conversation with the stakeholders. And even though, as much as you are strong, confident of the change, people will be more, it's contagious. It goes down, okay, and up and across. But you need to be honest about the territories where you don't know, because all of a sudden you will get help, or at least the empathy that you need in the organization to survive the transformation and really create something new. I think that one of the secret sauces in this thing is humans, we are explorers, naturally explorers. There are two ways to position a challenge. One way would be I tell you the challenge, you get so scared that you don't move. I paralyze you. I hold progress. I hold, or I express the challenge in a way that triggers the explorer of us and trigger curiosity and ingenuity to really go and tackle those challenges, because discovery is in us. So we will go for discovery. We will learn. We will make mistakes and correct. We will design accordingly to what we learned, and we will improve perpetually all these things, because we are naturally like that. That's a tactic that the leader might want to use. You cannot stop an organization that is in discovery mode and wants to learn and wants to use the learning to improve. In my P&G life, I saw that again and again happening, that people will go for, they will learn something new, they will improve this and that, and things that we thought probably would not be able to happen, they happen, and they happen again and again. So the power of our people is immense.
I love how you describe it. It's trying to foster that culture in that environment of, hey, we're going boldly where no other supply chain has gone before, or at least no other supply chain within the context of the organization has gone before, as a really inspirational way to get people motivated. And I'm curious, I mean, what changes have you experienced once you become a little more data driven? I mean, I'm sure as you make digital transformations, you're getting all these different data points to do those pulse checks that you referenced earlier. How did that impact productivity of your transformation?
That's an amazing question. If you look at the history of industry, and let me talk manufacturing for a second. We have the first revolution, second revolution, third revolution, okay, and then fourth revolution. The third revolution, we had already computing into the production system, and in the third revolution, we saw already the magnificent amount of improvement that we saw in quality delivery, in consistency of productions, in steady processing of materials into products, etc., etc. And we were very limited with the capabilities we have. So what happens when the fourth revolution comes with all these amazing technologies that will exploit that for further and better, and create room for agility, to think about reliability in a different way, responsiveness in a different way, inventory in a different way, response to supply chain in a different way. The answer to the question is that if you were in an improvement trend with time, what happened with the incorporation of those technologies that we have jumps, and then it's like we created the next S curve. And if you look at technology today and database, everybody will say they have plans to invest in database operations. Not everybody is really doing it, or what they're doing is limited in most of the cases. So imagine as we continue driving enterprise-wide strategies that bring along in a coordinated way new technologies for leveraging data. Beautiful to see. I've been 40 years around, 40 plus now, and I have been able to enjoy seeing this evolution. So the fourth revolution needs to be accelerated and taken more seriously by the enterprises out there, in general, the industry, as well as the tools that will help us to leverage further data. In this new stage of the industry, we need a network of partners to really deliver things. So what do we need to do? Leverage the capabilities that are out there. There is an ecosystem of players that can help us to do better in the area of planning, better in defining strategies for digital operations, and really become experts in managing our business with data.
I mean, you hit on a couple things there. I want to go a little deeper on. I mean, we're talking about being able to pivot quickly whenever you have these unexpected business disruptions in supply chain. We've seen a few of those in the last couple of years. I mean, we have the pandemic. We have some of the global, international and global conflicts that we're looking at around the war in Ukraine. There's a number of disruptions supply chain leaders have probably had to address internally or externally in the last couple of years. In connection with partners, how can supply chain leaders leverage partners to have a more agile and flexible digital transformation strategy or supply chain strategy?
Well, first of all, we need to become more knowledgeable of the geopolitics trends and how geopolitics issues can affect us. Normally, we're not trained to do that. I see a need for leadership to be better trained on that and be able to influence strategies and tactics, pivoting, as you said, into whatever is needed at a given point in time. Second, I believe that since we will not be able to do that on our own, we need to create that ecosystem that we mentioned before. And this is a delicate conversation because you might go on selecting your ecosystem of players based on size of the company that you're dealing with. And most likely, the big player partner is in the same situation you are. But today, there are companies that are either proven with the growth or proven with the idea that they can really contribute to be an ecosystem player that will help your enterprise to accelerate progress, anticipate trends, and manage whatever required pivoting need is in there. You can do all of this, and if you don't have a say in the company's strategy and direction, you are in trouble, which is a problem with supply chain leaders, because not all the supply chain leaders are influential to the leadership of the company. because it's still in the industry, there is a lot of supply chain being a cost center more than a strategic capability for the enterprise. But those that have learned that lesson and are using the supply chain in a different way, I have seen it firsthand. The way to create the ecosystem, I would say, becoming more savvy on the area of things that can affect your supply chain. Stop being the hero that wants to solve problems of everybody because we feel good because we solve the problem. And the truth of the matter is that, yeah, I wish you feel good because you prevented the problem. To do that, you have to really create that ecosystem, have good communication, and then be influential to the leadership of the company. Those three things I would say are the secret to. So what would be a right player? Because you can do planning, for example, by buying from a company that does planning on a platform that is very good. And, a lot of people can do planning, production planning, can do demand planning. It's not unattainable because you don't have time to look at there all the time and bring something on your own. You need to have partners that are able to make their products better every minute. That better product is communicated, and I understand how to leverage it every day. So those are partners I want to have in my team.
Well, thanks for elaborating on the role of partners, but also, again, reiterating the value of learning, staying sharp, gaining buy-in from leadership within the organization. We are about out of time today, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your experiences in digital transformation at Procter & Gamble and Kimberly-Clark. Before we sign off, for listeners today who maybe are leading teams or digital transformation initiatives of their own, what parting words of wisdom or what key learnings would you like to share with them as a final thought?
For the leaders, we need to have the courage of testing and going for the learning. We need to stand strong that it is our obligation as supply chain leaders to make sure that we can deliver. And there are capabilities out there that we're not using because we have problems to justify it, or we have misalignments with the other decision makers in the system. But if you really make a business case that is connected to the realities of the business model that you're dealing with, and you partner with the right ecosystem of players, you should be able to communicate that strongly and stand strong to your idea of making that transformation happen. I don't know who said this to me, but I love it and I use it a lot. Is that we are not creating a solution that is for the headache of today. We're creating a solution that is the vitamin of tomorrow's strength. For the youngsters, I say sometimes I feel like there is a fear to fight things, and then we fall into the comfort zone of probably not fighting enough. I would invite people to feel the need to battle fear with the strength coming from inside. Stop the complaining and be more into exploring the change, building plus capabilities. Go for, make mistakes, learn, grow, and work particularly on yourself.
Well said. And, I think that connection between the philosophical and the technological is not as far apart as we like to think, as you've laid out today. Understanding people is just as important as understanding the technology and the strategy that you're looking to implement. Gustavo Lopez-Ghory, thank you so much for joining us on Masters of Digital Transformation today.
Thanks so much.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to today's episode featuring Gustavo Ghory, where he shared his incredible journey to becoming the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Kimberly-Clark before providing his insights and perspectives on the role of leadership in a successful digital transformation. Now, if you enjoyed today's conversation and you want to learn more from the world's leading change agents, you can join our community of global innovators by heading to aim10x.09solutions.com and signing up today. Aim10x is a knowledge and networking hub for leaders passionate about digitally transforming enterprises for better decision-making and a better planet. To keep up with more episodes of Masters of Digital Transformation, please leave us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred podcast app. You can even learn more about the activities and learning opportunities available through the Aim10X Innovators Network by following Aim10X on LinkedIn. Before we close today, I wanted to leave you with this food for thought related to today's conversation. Barry Ross, the president and co-founder of Ross & Ross International, once said, "You can't delegate digital transformation for your company. You and your executives have to own it. Executives need to engage, embrace, and adopt new ways of working with the latest of emerging technologies." Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you next time when we sit down with the former EVP and Chief Supply Chain Officer at Estee Lauder, Gregory Pulser, to learn more about how he approached building an agile culture of feedback to achieve success.